Discover the incredible journey. Solitary lumberjacks are two purchase leads to life-changing love. In the heart of the Pacific Northwest, amid towering trees and whispering winds, lived Ben, a 35-year-old lumberjack whose flannel shirts and rugged boots told a story of hard work and solitude. Nature surrounded him, a comforting embrace, but within that beauty lay a haunting isolation, a painful reminder of a fractured family and dreams lost on the forest floor. Day after day, he trudged through the woods, the sound of axe meeting tree a rhythm of his own making, echoing the longing in his heart. One ordinary afternoon, with a soft drizzle falling, Ben stepped into the local hardware store. The scent of fresh wood mixed with metal flooded his senses, wrapping him in familiarity. As he picked up a small packet of nails for R2, the act felt insignificant, mere background noise in the grand play of life. Little did he know this transaction would ignite something extraordinary. While he stood at the counter, Clara entered, the type of woman who seemed to own the atmosphere. Juggling wavy hair and a weary smile, she was the single mother of two, wearing the weight of the world that no one else could see. Her spirit, though battered by life, shone bright. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, time suspended, old wounds began to heal without a word. Ben felt a flutter in his chest, a spark of connection he hadn't understood he craved. "Nice day for a walk in the woods, huh?" she said, breaking the silence. The townsfolk whispered about Clara, quick to judge her like they had painted the town in shades of their own fears. But Ben saw past those judgments, drawn to her resilience that he began to visit her more often, layers of misunderstanding peeling away like old bark. Clara's laughter echoed in his ears, a melody he never wanted to forget. But as their friendship blossomed, skepticism loomed over them like dark storm clouds, casting long shadows. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the annual Harvest Festival approached, the excitement in the air became palpable. The vibrant autumn leaves painted the town in bursts of color, a stark contrast to the divisions festering among the community. Just then, a powerful storm blew in, winds howling, rain pounding down. It was then Clara rose to the occasion, selflessly helping neighbors who had scoffed at her mere existence. Ben watched as Clara's courage slowly chipped away at the barriers of prejudice surrounding her, including his once cynical neighbor, who started to see a different side of her, but the storm also stirred up old wounds within Ben, events from the past that he had tried to bury. Misunderstandings clouded their blooming affection. With whispers and rumors swirling through town, he found himself torn between his growing love for Clara and the weight of the judgments that hung like a specter over them. Now, as lanterns illuminated the night of the festival, Ben stood on the precipice of change. He felt the tension clawing at his heart, ready to defend Clara against the murmurings of the town. Could love conquer all, or would the heavy judgment of community prevail? Ben's heart raced, uncertain, driven by a hope that flickered like those delicate lanterns in the dark. The festival buzzed with energy, a vibrant town celebration breaking through the gloom cast by the earlier storm. Laughter and music filled the air, mingling with the warmth of roasted corn and spiced cider. As Ben looked around, he wanted to feel that joy, but the knots in his stomach made it nearly impossible. Clara held his gaze from across the field, a beacon of light amidst the chaos. He could see the worn edges of her spirit, yet her smile was radiant as she juggled her two children, a whirlwind of play and affection. Ben took a step closer, the lights of the festival shimmering like stars falling to earth. Every beat of his heart whispered for him to reach out, to bridge the distance that felt both small and unfathomable. He could hear the whispers, judgments laced with accusations, wondering why a man like him would bother with someone like Clara. But deep down, he knew. She was strong. She cared fiercely. And for the first time in a long time, she made him feel alive. The children ran toward him, their laughter infectious. Clara watched with a mix of pride and anxiety. Ben knelt down, embracing them as they tugged on his flannel sleeves, their energy a comforting reminder of life's simple joys. "Let us go get some apples," one of them squealed, pulling him into the bustling crowd. As they wandered from stall to stall, Ben's heart lightened just a bit. The aroma of caramel apples wrapped around him, a sweetness that reminded him of childhood memories long buried under layers of grief. Clara joined them, her eyes sparkling, more alive than he had ever seen her. He watched her interact with the vendors, the way her kindness softened their rough exteriors. The whispers he had tried to ignore seemed distant now, fading into the background of laughter and music, but then came a moment that felt like a stone dropped in a still pond. A familiar figure loomed in the distance. It was Tom, the town's unofficial judge, carrying an expression that promised trouble. Ben's breath caught in his throat as he saw Tom approach Clara. A sickening realization began to settle in his stomach. He had hoped they could avoid this confrontation, but it felt inevitable. "Shouldn't you be somewhere else, Clara?" Tom's voice dripped with venom. "This festival isn't exactly for people like you." Clara stiffened, hurt flashing across her face. The laughter around them dulled, and the warmth of the festival seemed to evaporate. Ben felt a surge of heat rise in his chest, a fierce protective instinct igniting within him. "You leave her alone," he said, stepping forward, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. "You don't know her, none of you do." The wind rustled the leaves above them, echoing the turmoil in his heart. "What's this? The lumberjack stands up for the town's outcast?" Tom's mockery was irritating and petty, but Ben would not be swayed. Every person in the vicinity turned to watch. The weight of their eyes bore down on him, and he breathed through the growing tension. Clara stood behind him, her presence grounding him even as doubts crept in. That moment, Ben faced a choice that would define his future. Would he back down and let judgment reign, or would he stand strong for the woman who had begun to heal his heart? As he looked back at Clara, her face illuminated by the festival lights, he realized that this love was worth fighting for. "Love doesn't have boundaries, Tom," he finally said, his voice cutting through the tension. "And neither should kindness." What happened next would shift the very fabric of their lives and the town's judgment. But as whispers intensified and eyes widened, Ben wondered if love alone would be enough to conquer the chains of prejudice holding them both captive. The night felt charged with uncertainty, and he braced himself for the outcome. Would this truly be a moment of change, or just another storm to weather? The silence that followed Ben's words was thick, almost suffocating. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the festival, leaving behind only the sharp clang of his heart pounding in his chest. Clara's eyes widened, shock mingling with a flicker of hope. Would this moment mark the turning tide, or would it sink beneath the weight of Tom's sneering disdain? Tom was unmoved, his expression a mask of disbelief mixed with outrage. "Oh, this is rich. Lumberjack romance in the town square," he taunted, a derisive laugh escaping his lips. The gathered crowd murmured, some smirking, others intrigued by the confrontation. Ben could see it all in their eyes, the mix of judgment, curiosity, and a hint of admiration. "Clara is more than just an outcast," Ben pressed on, each word driven by a deep-seated urge to protect the woman who had unwittingly captured his heart. "She's a mother, a friend, someone who brings light into the lives of those around her." His voice rose, gaining confidence as Clara stepped beside him, her presence a steady flame against the wind. "People can change, Tom. This town can change," Clara added, her voice trembling but resolute. "We don't have to live in the shadows of your hate." At that, the tension snapped. Some of the townsfolk began to nod, the shift in their expressions a powerful undercurrent against Tom's harsh glare. It was as if Clara's words were seeds planted in fertile ground. Ben felt a rush of adrenaline, an exaltation at witnessing this shared courage. Yet Tom refused to back down, his sneer morphing into a scowl. "And who'll follow you, Clara? They've never wanted you here. They'll never change their minds. Look around. He gestured widely, his disdain stretching across the crowd. Ben's body tensed again. Each jibe from Tom felt like a strike to his core, the fear that perhaps he had made a mistake creeping back in. What if they were right? What if love couldn't fight against the heavy chains of prejudice? But in that moment, Clara squeezed his hand, her grip firm and unwavering. "I'd rather face their hate with my head held high than live in silence out of fear," she declared, her voice calming yet powerful. Around them, there were murmurs of agreement. An older woman, one who sold handmade crafts at the festival, chimed in softly, "Life's too short to hide away." Ben turned to Clara, their eyes locking. She was standing brave and vibrant in the flickering lights. A spark ignited within him, one that propelled him forward. "You don't know us, Tom," Ben said, his voice steady. "We aren't just the backgrounds of your story. We're here to write a new chapter." The tension in the air began to shift, morphing from oppressive to electric. Yet Ben's mind raced with uncertainty. He could see some people nodding, others still frowning in confusion or disbelief. Each second stretched on, fraught with the weight of what was at stake. His pulse quickened, not just with the adrenaline of the moment but with a longing for acceptance for Clara and her children. Then, as if the universe wanted to intervene, a little girl from the crowd, no older than 6, stepped forward, clutching a stray balloon tightly. "Tom's wrong." Her innocent voice rang clear. "Everyone should be able to have fun with their families. Even people we don't know much about." Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the tension. Ben felt a wave of relief wash over him. The girl's simple truth hung in the air, bridging the divide Tom had tried so hard to deepen. But the look in Tom's eyes suggested he was just getting started. Anger simmered beneath his skin. The whispers around them grew louder, shifting from animosity to curiosity. And somewhere in the depths of Ben's heart, he knew they had ignited a conversation that could change everything. As Tom turned to stalk away, Ben caught a glimpse of Clara's expression, hope mixed with trepidation. They had opened a door, but would anyone dare to step through? The atmosphere buzzed with potential as Clara looked up at him, her voice full of determination. "We might not have all the answers yet, but we'll find them together." Ben nodded, squeezing her hand tighter, feeling the weight of a new beginning. Yet he wondered as they stood there, surrounded by uncertainty, how far they could truly go against the tide of the town's fears. "Together we'll face whatever comes next," Ben said softly, yet the question lingered: what would that fight look like? And just how fierce would the backlash be? The laughter from the crowd echoed like a lifeline, pulling Clara and Ben back from the edge of uncertainty. Clara felt a flicker of warmth in her chest, like the sun breaking through the clouds after a long storm. It was a reminder that sometimes, hope could radiate from the most unexpected places. But as quickly as hope surfaced, Clara noticed Tom's looming figure, tension wrapping him like a coil ready to snap. Ben's grip on her hand tightened, grounding her as she faced the crowd. What's next, she thought, her heart racing. Around them, people were shifting, whispering among themselves. Tom's sneer transformed into a calculating glare, as if he were piecing together a strategy. "Is this really what you want?" he bellowed, voice like thunder. "To follow this failure? To risk your family's safety?" A murmur of discontent rippled through the crowd. Some faces, once eager, now furrowed in concern at Tom's words. Clara swallowed hard. Could they really risk everything for a chance at something new, a chance for unity, for love? "Stand your ground," Ben called out, breaking the wave of doubt. His voice echoed through the crowd, unyielding and passionate. "You have the power to decide what this town stands for. Choose kindness over ignorance." Clara felt a surge of adrenaline as she turned to address the townsfolk. "Each of you knows love," she began, her voice unwavering. "You know it in your families, in your friendships, and the laughter of your children. No one deserves to be marginalized just because they're different." In the back, The older woman selling crafts nodded fervently, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. We've all felt alone at some point, she added, her voice warming with resolve. Let us not forget our humanity. Those simple words seemed to dissolve the animosity that had thickened the air. One by one, people stepped forward, echoing their support. I remember Clara helping my daughter with her homework, making sure she felt understood. She saved my life when I was low, another voice chimed in. Clara's heart fluttered. It was happening. They were beginning to fight back against Tom's poison, but just when the hope felt like it would carry them all, Tom sneered again, fixating on Clara. You think this changes anything? You think accepting you will make us better? It'll only invite chaos. Or maybe it invites understanding, Clara shot back, finding strength in the warmth of her neighbors' voices rallying around her. Maybe it starts with us taking a step toward each other instead of away. The energy in the crowd shifted again, a palpable wave of excitement mixing with tension. Some faces in the crowd held disbelief, others curiosity, but the harshness of Tom's influence seemed to wane under the flickering lights of hope. Are we really afraid of a little change? Ben's voice boomed, rallying the crowd once more. Or are we brave enough to embrace the potential of a community that celebrates every person? Tom flushed with fury. You're deluded. This isn't about friendship, this is about survival. You'll regret this. With that, he turned, storming off, but not before the crowd had begun to shift, a wave of potential rising in Clara's heart. As Tom's figure faded into the shadows, the crowd erupted in applause, a sound that resonated with determination. Clara turned to Ben, catching the spark of affirmation in his eyes. They had stood firm together, and the town might just fight for a new future, but even as hope swelled around them, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that Tom was only just getting started. His anger would not subside quietly. It was a storm that would rage before it could settle. Let us take a moment to breathe, Clara suggested, though her pulse raced with anticipation. We've made a start, but what happens next? Will they really stand with us when things get tougher? In the shift of the festival atmosphere, Clara felt the weight of what lay ahead. With Ben beside her, she felt fortified, yet the shadows lingered. Just how deep would the fight go? How far would they have to go to prove that love could conquer hate? The cheers from the crowd enveloped Clara like a warm blanket, but the lingering tension in the air reminded her that the battle was far from over. She glanced at Ben, his eyes still shining with fervent hope, and a sense of determination pooled in her gut. We can't stop now, she thought, not when we're finally moving forward. As the festival continued around them, Clara felt the ripples of change in the crowd. Many were still clapping, while others formed small groups, discussing what had just happened. She observed the old woman from the back, still nodding along, encouraging others to join in. Clara's heart swelled. Maybe they really could reshape their community, one conversation at a time. Let us gather everyone, Ben suggested, sensing the momentary shift in atmosphere. We need to talk about what's next, how we can keep this momentum going. His excitement was contagious, and Clara felt it coursing through her too. They weren't alone anymore. Slowly, as Clara and Ben began to speak up again, people leaned in closer, drawn by an invisible thread of connection. What can we do together? Clara asked, her voice steady and full of intent. What changes can we embrace to make this community more inclusive? Pressing forward, a man with a nervous fidget spoke up. I've seen my neighbors struggling to come to terms with people who are different. Maybe we could host a series of workshops, help everyone understand each other better? A ripple of agreement followed, and Clara's pulse quickened. Ideas began to surface like wildflowers pushing through the soil after a winter thaw. Someone suggested monthly gatherings where they could share food and stories. Another proposed volunteer opportunities to support local charities. As they brainstormed, Clara felt the fears slowly dissolve with every positive contribution. This was the essence of community, everyone playing a part, each voice valued. But in the back of her mind, the shadow of Tom loomed larger. What will happen when he retaliates? She thought. Will they still stand strong? Ben reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. We're in this together, he whispered, a quiet confidence that anchored her thoughts. Just then, Clara's stomach twisted. She scanned the crowd, and her eyes met the piercing gaze of Tom, who had reappeared at the edge of the gathering. His expression was stony, but Clara could almost feel the storm brewing inside him, ready to unleash at any moment. Enough of this nonsense! Tom bellowed, his voice slicing through the chatter like a knife. Clara felt the crowd stiffen, excitement quickly replaced by uncertainty. You think this charade will work? You think your kindness overcomes my warnings? I will not stand by as you put our families at risk. A wave of apprehensive murmurs cascaded among the townsfolk, the energy shifting once more. Clara could see confusion, concern, and fear creeping back onto faces that had just now been shining with resolve. Tom! Clara called out, forcing herself to meet his challenging glare. You're the one who instills fear. We want to build trust, a community united in love. You can come with us or stay alone, but we will not be afraid. Silence hung thick like fog among them, as hope and dread battled for dominance. Tom's eyes flashed with anger, but for the first time, Clara noticed something else, a flicker of uncertainty. Then, she felt a spark ignite within her. What if they could reach him? What if love had the power to penetrate even the hardest of hearts? This moment could define everything, but would Tom allow change, or was he too far gone, determined to sabotage their future? With her heart racing, Clara waited, keenly aware that everything hung in the balance as she prepared for Tom's response. Clara could hardly breathe as she stared into Tom's eyes, searching for any hint of vulnerability. The crowd, once electric with hope, stood as still as a winter's night, torn between loyalty to Tom and the newfound courage Clara had ignited. Change is hard, Clara, Tom muttered, his voice low, almost shaky. You don't know what it's like to lose everything, to watch your family suffer because of outsiders. His gaze faltered for just a moment, revealing a crack in his tough facade. Then help us understand, Clara urged, stepping forward, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. We want to listen. It's your pain, your fears, they matter. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We just want to build something better. Better? Tom scoffed, yet the edge in his voice lacked its usual bite. Clara's words had reached him, even if only slightly. You think kindness will erase generations of distrust? We can't change the past, Ben chimed in, his voice steady and reassuring. But we can build a future together. Let us show you how we can grow, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who calls this place home. Clara could feel the tension ripple through the crowd again, a collective inhalation. Eyes flicked nervously between Tom and the hopeful faces of their friends and neighbors, emboldened by the idea of unity. The children who had once played freely now clutched their parents' hands, waiting, listening. What if we're wrong? Tom's tone softened, his bravado seeming to slip. What if your outsiders come here and destroy us? For a brief moment, the unspoken worries spiraled up around them like wisps of smoke. Clara felt a pang of empathy for Tom, recognizing the struggle beneath his anger. What if we unite instead of divide? What if understanding is our greatest strength? Maybe we could start with a gathering? The nervous man from before piped up again, tentatively hopeful. If they're willing to share their stories, and we can share ours, perhaps that's where we begin? A ripple of murmurs followed, and Clara couldn't help but smile. Ideas were solidifying, and a flicker of determination sparked within the crowd. This wasn't just about Tom anymore, it was about everyone, a shared dream for something brighter. Tom looked around, uncertainty flooding his features. His eyes darted across the sea of faces, searching for something. Clara felt every heartbeat in that moment, the deep breath the crowd collectively took as they waited for him to speak again. All right, he finally said, voice taut. I'll give it a chance. But if you lead us astray, I won't stand by. Relief washed over Clara like a warm summer rain. For a moment, victory felt almost tangible. The crowd erupted in tentative cheers, intermingled with uncertainty. Tom's acceptance was a small step, but it was still a step. A crack in the wall he had built around his heart, but beneath that feeling of triumph, unease still gnawed at Clara. She knew change didn't come easy, and while this moment felt victorious, lingering shadows lurked in every corner, threatening to rise again. What if Tom's change of heart was merely a facade? What if the community couldn't hold together in the face of real conflict? With her hopes high and anxiety brewing, Clara turned to Ben, grateful for his presence. "We have to stay vigilant," she murmured, the weight of her fears heavy on her heart. And so, as they planned the next steps, the air buzzed with possibility yet marred by the specter of doubt. Clara felt it. Fragile hope mingled with testing waters ahead. How far could this change stretch, and who else would try to resist the tide? Will love truly conquer all? She pondered silently, looking out into the crowd that was once again beginning to believe. The journey was just beginning, and Clara knew that, like the community she dreamed of, she'd have to remain steadfast through every challenge that still awaited them. As dusk settled around them, bright lights flickered to life above, illuminating faces filled with hope but casting shadows that whispered of the doubts lingering behind their smiles. Would they all hold strong when the storm returned? The gathering was set for the following weekend. Clara felt a mix of excitement and dread as they organized chairs in the town square, envisioning the coming together of two worlds. Under twinkling lights strung between the trees, she hoped for magic, yet knew the fragile thread linking Tom's hesitant acceptance and the community's resolve could snap at any moment. She paced around the preparations, feeling a tug in her chest. The energy buzzed with anticipation but felt underlined with uncertainty. Some townsfolk remained wary, exchanging nervous glances as they placed refreshments on nearby tables. Clara caught snippets of their conversations. Questions about whether anyone from outside would even show up. Speculations about dangers lingering in trust. "Clara, are you sure about this?" Ben asked, his brow furrowed as he straightened a crooked chair. "What if it turns into chaos? Then we deal with it." "We can't let fear run our lives," she replied, motivated by the warmth of hope, even though her own stomach twisted. "Change is just as scary for them as it is for us." As evening approached, Clara noticed Tom slipping between the shadows, back and forth, almost like a ghost. She could see him doing his best to reassure the others at a distance, his brow tight, his hands tucked into his pockets. He was the gatekeeper to change, and she knew in her heart that gaining his trust was pivotal. A sudden burst of laughter pulled Clara's attention away from Tom's anxious figure. It was a group of children chasing fireflies, their giggles lank and sweet against the background of soft music. Clara watched them dance around like tiny sparks of hope, embodying the spirit of unity she longed for, a tangible symbol of what could be if the walls fell. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Clara felt weight in the air, an undeniable tension muffled just beneath the surface. The crowd began to take shape as families arrived. "Look," Ben said, pointing toward Tom, who had finally stepped forward, facing the gathering crowd. He looked tentative but resolute. "He's going to speak." Tom cleared his throat, eyes glancing nervously over the faces looking back at him. Clara held her breath, anticipation buzzing in her veins, praying the right words would break free. "Thank you all for coming," he began, voice steady despite the flicker of doubt. "I know we've had our differences, but tonight is a step toward healing. I want my daughter to grow up in a place where love is louder than fear." The crowd nodded, some murmurs of agreement passing through. Clara felt the warmth blossom in her chest, but it was quickly overshadowed by worries. Would this fragile moment hold firm against the weight of history? As stories were shared one by one, Clara listened intently. The pain, the struggles, the dreams of those who had once felt forgotten. Each tale drew the crowd closer together. Clara felt joy bursting within her, yet anxiety still lingered. What if malicious whispers from the past rose up to disrupt this harmony? Just when Clara thought the mood had finally cracked open, she noticed a familiar figure approaching Lucas, one of Tom's old friends, someone she knew challenged Tom's views. His scowl narrowed the ambience. "Do you really think this will work?" he shouted from the edge of the square, his voice booming. "This is reckless. They'll bring only trouble." Tension erupted into the air, the warmth replaced by cold whispers and fearful glances. Clara's heart raced as she watched Tom's steady facade waver. "No. This can't fall apart now," she thought. In that instant, the thread connecting hope and despair tugged violently at Clara's core. She had to stand strong, to speak up. But could she rally enough courage to counter the shadow of doubt threatening to engulf them all? The community's fragile stage hung in the balance, a precarious game of faith versus fear. "Tom, we can't let one voice drown out all the others," Clara exclaimed, stepping forward, her heart pounding louder than her words. "We owe it to ourselves to prove that together we are stronger." The murmurs shifted. Eyes turned towards her, searching for conviction. Would Clara inspire them? Could love truly conquer all, or would one voice shatter the quiet hopes that had begun to take root? Clara felt the weight of every gaze, the collective breath of a town holding its hope in their hands. She noticed the flicker of uncertainty in Tom's eyes as he looked at her, a soft plea for support amidst the chaos swirling around them. "Don't let him steal this moment," she urged silently. "Clara's right," Ben called out, taking a step beside her, his voice strong and steady. "This is about more than just one person's opinion. This is about our children and their future." His words ignited a shift in the crowd. Clara watched as scattered nods turned to murmurs of agreement, then waves of determination rising among familiar faces. She felt the room expand, the energy vibrating with shared purpose, but Lucas wasn't finished. "And what about the scars you can't see?" he pressed, his frown deepening. "The years of hurt won't disappear just because we decide to pretend they're gone." The air crackled with tension again as Clara felt her heart begin to race. She needed to respond, to break down the wall of fear Lucas was building with each word. "We won't pretend, Lucas," she shouted back, her voice cutting through the thick atmosphere. "We are here to acknowledge the pain. To share it and heal together. That's why we're gathered tonight." The crowd stirred, voices beginning to weave together, forming a tapestry of thoughts and feelings. Some rallied behind Clara, ready to embrace a new era of vulnerability, while others held fast to doubt. It was palpable, a push and pull of old and new beliefs, of the known against the unknown. "Think about the past," Lucas challenged again, but Clara saw some in the crowd arching their eyebrows, recalling their own experiences, the hurt that had been shared. Tom took a breath, steadied by Clara's fierce resolve. "Lucas, I get where you're coming from," he said, sounding a bit more confident now. "Trust isn't built overnight, and pain doesn't just vanish. But staying silent and divided is worse. We have to start somewhere." The crowd buzzed with murmurs of cautious agreement. Clara felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they were ready to lean towards healing. A hand gripped Clara's shoulder. It was Ben, a supportive smile stretched across his face. "You've got this," he whispered. "Let us keep talking." And that's when Clara took the plunge. "No one says it will be easy," she continued, her heart racing but her voice steady. "But isn't this our chance to begin? To tell our children that we tried? That love and acceptance did not die with old grudges?" More heads turned, intrigue sprinkling the tension with a hint of possibility. As the crowd simmered down, eyes softened, Clara knew this journey was just beginning. But she could see that vital thread of hope, delicate yet unwoven, dangling in the air. Once again, the laughter of children chasing fireflies floated through the square, reminding everyone of the innocent joy that always existed beyond fear. They deserve this, Clara thought, a warmth spreading in her heart. They deserve a chance to shine. Tom stepped forward, bolstered by her fervor. Can we open our hearts and give each other a shot? He asked the crowd, hope shining through the tightness around his brow. It took a moment, one that stretched painfully like a long breath, but finally, some voices rang out in agreement. Clara exhaled a sigh of relief, feeling the energy shift. It felt like the first crack of dawn after a long, dark night. Could they actually do this? Just as the atmosphere soared with potential, a loud crash echoed from the edge of the square. Clara's heart dropped as she turned to see a group of concerned townsfolk surrounded by broken glass, their shock ringing out like a heartbeat. What now? She wondered silently, fear creeping back in as whispers of something worse than just a voice began to loom over them. Could they really push forward amidst the chaos? And would they find the true unity they were craving, or would despair rise up again? The glass shattered down the center of the square like a thunderclap, scattering everyone on the outskirts into a frenzy. Clara's instinct was to rush in, to help, but every step felt like running through molasses. The crowd that had begun to lean towards connection was now a storm of confusion. Stay calm. Ben called out, stepping forward with authority. He moved toward the group near the mess, a protective aura about him. Let us figure out what happened. Everyone, take a step back. Clara's gaze flickered back to the stage where she had just been finding her voice, now feeling a pang of loss for the moment. The laughter that once floated through the air seemed like a distant memory. She stole a look at Tom, who stood rigid next to her, uncertainty shadowing his face. What was that noise? He muttered, the worry crinkling his brow. Clara's heart squeezed. I don't know, Clara replied, fighting to keep her own fear at bay. Her hands trembled, the adrenaline rushing through her veins. Let us see if anyone's hurt. They moved closer, and the crowd slowly parted around them. Clara caught sight of a woman kneeling over a child, brushing away shards of glass scattered in the grass. Clara's breath hitched. Was it too late to pull back from the brink of despair? Is everyone okay? Ben asked, kneeling beside the woman, his hands raised in peace. The child, a boy no older than 6, had a few scrapes on his knees but seemed unharmed otherwise. Clara allowed herself a moment of relief. He scared them. The woman cried, her voice cracking. He just crashed through the fence like a thunderbolt. Clara's eyes widened in confusion. Who did? A car, the woman whimpered, gesturing towards the edge of the square. Clara turned in unison with the crowd to see a battered red truck parked askew, its driver slumped in the seat, a figure obscured by the sunlight pouring in from behind. The sight of familiar dust clouds cooking off the pavement tainted the bright evening she had imagined just moments before. As townsfolk gathered near the truck, Clara felt an urgency building in her chest. What if this was the chaos that severed their fragile bond? We can't let fear take over, she whispered to Tom, who nodded, though he looked skeptical. Ben had a fire in his eyes, his voice rising above the din. Everyone, let us not jump to conclusions. We're a community. We can help. It was a beautiful sentiment, yet Clara felt the undercurrent of anxiety. Lucas's words still stung. There were scars that didn't show, wounds buried deep. Could they really find connection amidst mess like this? Lucas appeared at the edge of the crowd, his expression torn between anger and disbelief. What is happening? This chaos, this is what I was warning you about. He barked, drawing attention again. Clara felt the tension ramping up, realizing how fragile their newfound unity truly was. In the face of chaos, her heart raced. It's okay to be afraid, she called out to the gathered people, her voice unwavering, filled with determination. But fear doesn't have to divide us. Let us come together, let us see what has happened. Clara stepped forward as a liaison, her feet almost moving of their own accord. Her desire to mend, to heal, coursed through her. It was time to take control, even if the chaos loomed. She couldn't let fear steal another moment. As she approached the driver's side of the truck, Clara caught a glimpse of the man within. His face was ashen, eyes wide and terrified. "What do you need?" she asked, inching closer, her voice soft but firm. The man blinked, confusion clear. "I didn't mean to," he started, choking back tears that mirrored Clara's own rising fear and hope. Their eyes met, and for a split second, Clara felt a connection, a promise of understanding bridging the divide. But just then, a shout erupted from the crowd behind her. It was Lucas, demanding attention for problems she hadn't even seen yet. "We can't excuse this. He could hurt someone." Clara's breath caught. Would this be the moment that broke everything apart? Or could she find a way to pull them back together? The next few moments felt like a storm about to break, the air charged with potential. Would Clara manage to unite them as the ground beneath her trembled with uncertainty? Clara felt like the walls were closing in. Lucas's voice sliced through the buzzing crowd, igniting fear as Clara took a deep breath to steady herself. She had to remind everyone of their shared humanity. "Wait!" she called out, holding her hands up. "This man needs our help. Let's approach with compassion, not anger." The crowd hesitated, some faces hesitant, twisted with doubt. But Clara continued, pushing through the dread clawing at her throat. "We've just begun to come together as a community. We cannot let this crisis pull us apart." Tom stepped forward, the authority he had found growing visibly in his frame. "Clara's right. Let us find out what happened and help him. We owe it to everyone to act with care." His commanding presence stirred a shift. Not all skepticism had dimmed, some curiosity began to blossom within the crowd. Clara carefully approached the vehicle again, her heart hammering in her chest. "Sir, can you hear me?" She leaned towards the driver, hoping to pull him out of his shock. His eyes flickered up to meet hers, red-rimmed and filled with panic. I am so sorry. I lost control. I didn't mean." His voice broke as tears spilled down his cheeks. Clara felt an ache settle deep within her. "It's okay. We're here for you. Let us check on everyone first." She glanced back to the crowd, which now seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. A few brave faces stepped forward, bolstered by Ben's reassuring nods and Tom's quiet strength. Slowly, the townsfolk began to surround the truck, shifting from judgment to concern. "Just stay calm," Ben said as he moved to help the driver out, while Clara knelt beside the boy with the scrapes on his knees. "How are you feeling, buddy?" she asked, her fingers gentle as she examined his wounds. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice small. It was loud and big. Clara's heart swelled with empathy. She wiped the tears that stained his cheeks. "I understand. It's okay to feel scared. But we're not alone in this, I promise. We're all here together." As Clara comforted the boy and Ben helped the driver out, a collective stirring evolved among the townsfolk. Concern shifted into action. A woman stepped up to lend a first aid kit while another found blankets. Clara caught sight of Tom rallying nearby, encouraging others to bring water and snacks from their homes. Hope ignited again. "Look at us working together," Clara said to the boy, who now watched wide-eyed as the community responded, warming her heart as laughter broke through his earlier fear. "See? This is what happens when we lean on each other." Lucas stood on the outskirts, watching the scene unfold, doubt flickering across his features. Clara couldn't fathom what he was thinking, but she hoped he'd witness the impact of compassion dismantling fear, weaving the strands of their lives into something stronger. As the driver steadied himself with Ben's help, Clara walked closer. "You're safe now," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "We're going to get through this together." The driver looked at Clara, gratitude mingling with an understanding of the gravity of the moment. "Thank you," he said, voice trembling. "I didn't think anyone would care. Of course we care. We are a community. That means standing by each other," Clara replied, words bursting with conviction. In the background, the boy grinned at Clara, a smile breaking through the remnants of his fear. "You really mean it?" he asked, eyes bright. "Absolutely," Clara replied. "Love means being there for one another when things get tough. You're brave for coming out today." As Clara and the boy started a small game of finding shapes in the clouds, a hush fell over the square again as Tom returned. He cleared his throat, drawing attention. "What happened here tonight shows the strength that can emerge when we battle fear together," he began, voice steady and infused with newfound conviction. "Let us remember this. Let us learn from it." Applause broke out. Clara felt her heart swell even more. Could they really be moving past the shadow of judgment? The boy, emboldened, stood up. "And we're gonna be friends. Right?" he shouted, looking around at everyone. Clara laughed, and others joined in, their laughter mingling with the light and hope blossoming in their hearts. It felt electric, a spark igniting change, echoing through the square. And as the gathering drew together around the warmth of shared moments and vulnerable truths, Clara realized this was it. They were beginning to heal. Later that night, as the festival concluded, Clara embraced Ben under the twinkling lights. "We did it," she breathed, tears pricking her eyes. "Together," he nodded, holding her tightly. "We'll keep fighting for this." And in the gentle glow of hope, surrounded by those who had chosen love over fear, Clara felt a fundamental shift within her, a recognition that the strongest bonds could prevail, no matter the storms they faced together. This was the beginning of their journey, bound by love, united in purpose, ready to face whatever lay ahead, and just like that, the real festival of life began. Now, if you felt the emotion, the transformation, and the triumph throughout this story, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this incredible journey. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. And remember, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the love.